Depression is often misunderstood because many people confuse it with ordinary sadness. While sadness is a natural human emotion that everyone experiences after disappointment, loss, or failure, depression is far more complex and far more serious. Sadness usually has a clear cause, and over time, those feelings gradually become lighter as life moves forward. Depression, however, can remain for weeks, months, or even years. It affects the way a person thinks, feels, behaves, and experiences the world. It changes how the brain processes emotions and can make even the simplest parts of daily life feel impossible. This is why depression is not simply about feeling unhappy. It is a genuine mental health condition that deserves understanding, compassion, and proper care. Imagine waking up every morning with the feeling that a heavy weight is pressing against your entire body. Before the day has even begun, your energy feels completely drained. The smallest tasks, such as getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or preparing breakfast, seem overwhelming. Activities that other people complete without thinking require an enormous amount of effort. It is not because the person is lazy or unwilling to try. Instead, it feels as though their mind and body have lost the ability to generate the energy needed to function normally. One of the most painful aspects of depression is that it steals the ability to experience joy. Psychologists call this loss of pleasure anhedonia. Things that once made a person feel excited or fulfilled suddenly seem meaningless. Music no longer sounds beautiful. Favorite hobbies become exhausting. Spending time with family or friends no longer brings comfort. Even achievements that once felt rewarding seem empty. It is as if life has lost its color, leaving behind only a dull and lifeless existence. This emotional numbness can be even more frightening than sadness because many people with depression no longer know what happiness feels like. Depression also changes the way people think. Instead of seeing opportunities, the mind focuses almost entirely on problems and failures. Small mistakes feel enormous. Minor setbacks become proof that nothing will ever improve. The future begins to look hopeless, and the past becomes filled with regret. Thoughts become increasingly negative, creating a cycle that is difficult to escape. A person may constantly criticize themselves, believing they are not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. They may feel like they are disappointing everyone around them, even when there is little evidence to support those beliefs. These thoughts often feel completely real, making it difficult to separate the illness from reality. Many people assume that if someone simply thinks positively, everything will improve. Unfortunately, depression does not work that way. Telling a person with depression to cheer up is similar to telling someone with a broken leg to run faster. Positive thinking alone cannot immediately change the biological and psychological processes involved in depression. Encouragement can be valuable, but it cannot replace proper understanding, support, and treatment when they are needed. Depression also affects the body in many ways. People often experience constant fatigue regardless of how much they sleep. Some struggle with insomnia, lying awake for hours while their minds race with negative thoughts. Others sleep far more than usual but still wake up exhausted. Appetite may disappear completely, causing noticeable weight loss, while others may eat excessively in an attempt to find temporary comfort. Physical pain, headaches, muscle tension, digestive problems, and unexplained aches frequently accompany depression. These symptoms remind us that mental health and physical health are deeply connected. Relationships often become difficult during depression. A person may withdraw from friends and family because social interaction feels exhausting. They may stop answering messages, avoid phone calls, or decline invitations. To others, this behavior can appear rude or uncaring, but in reality, many people with depression desperately want connection while feeling incapable of maintaining it. Isolation then makes the depression even worse, creating another painful cycle that is difficult to break. One of the greatest challenges is that depression is often invisible. Unlike a physical injury, there may be no outward signs that clearly show someone is suffering. A person can smile during conversations, go to work, attend school, and fulfill responsibilities while secretly fighting an exhausting battle inside their mind. This is why many people with depression feel misunderstood. They hear comments like, "You don't look depressed," or "Everyone gets sad sometimes." Such statements minimize their experience and can make them feel even more alone. Modern science has shown that depression involves real changes in the brain. Brain regions responsible for mood regulation, decision-making, motivation, and emotional processing can function differently during depression. Chemicals called neurotransmitters, including serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, play important roles in communication between brain cells. Although depression cannot be explained by a simple chemical imbalance alone, changes in these systems can contribute to symptoms such as low mood, lack of motivation, difficulty concentrating, and loss of pleasure. Genetics, stressful life events, trauma, chronic illness, and environmental factors can also increase a person's risk. This means depression develops through a complex interaction of biological, psychological, and social influences rather than a single cause. Childhood experiences can also shape vulnerability to depression later in life. Growing up in an environment filled with neglect, abuse, constant criticism, or emotional instability can affect how the brain responds to stress. As adults, these individuals may struggle with self-worth, trust, and emotional regulation. However, not everyone who experiences hardship develops depression, and not everyone with depression has experienced trauma. Every person's journey is unique, reminding us that there is no single explanation for why depression occurs. One particularly destructive symptom is guilt. Depression often convinces people that they are responsible for everything that goes wrong. They may apologize constantly, believe they are a burden to others, or feel guilty simply for needing help. Even when friends and family reassure them, the illness continues whispering that they are failing. This false sense of guilt can become so overwhelming that many people stop asking for support altogether because they fear inconveniencing those they love. Concentration and memory are also affected. Reading a book, watching a movie, following conversations, or completing work assignments becomes surprisingly difficult. Simple decisions such as choosing what to wear or what to eat can feel mentally exhausting. Many people become frustrated because they no longer recognize themselves. They wonder why tasks that once felt easy now require so much effort. Perhaps one of the most dangerous aspects of depression is hopelessness. The illness convinces people that nothing will ever improve and that the future holds no possibility for happiness. This belief can become so powerful that some individuals begin to think life itself has lost meaning. These thoughts are symptoms of the illness rather than objective truths. They deserve immediate attention, compassion, and professional support, not judgment or shame. Despite its severity, depression is treatable. Recovery does not always happen quickly, and the path is rarely straight. Some people improve through psychotherapy, where they learn healthier ways to understand emotions, challenge negative thoughts, and develop coping strategies. Others benefit from medication prescribed by qualified healthcare professionals. Many find that regular physical activity, healthy sleep habits, supportive relationships, mindfulness practices, creative expression, and meaningful daily routines also contribute to recovery. Often, the most effective approach combines several forms of support rather than relying on only one. Recovery also begins with understanding that healing does not require perfection. Some days will feel better than others. Progress may be slow and difficult to notice. Small victories matter. Getting out of bed, taking a shower, preparing a meal, going for a short walk, or speaking honestly with someone you trust are meaningful accomplishments during depression. These seemingly ordinary actions represent courage because they require strength that others may never see. Compassion is one of the greatest gifts we can offer people living with depression. Instead of judging them for what they cannot do, we should recognize the invisible struggle they face every day. Listening without trying to immediately fix the problem, offering patience instead of criticism, and reminding them that they are not alone can make a profound difference. Sometimes the most healing words are simply, "I believe you, I'm here for you, and you don't have to face this alone." Ultimately, depression is far more than sadness. It is a condition that touches every part of a person's life, influencing emotions, thoughts, physical health, relationships, and hope for the future. It is not a sign of weakness, failure, or lack of character. It is a real health condition that deserves the same understanding and respect as any physical illness. With knowledge, compassion, proper treatment, and continued support, people living with depression can recover, rediscover meaning, and rebuild lives filled with hope. No matter how dark the present moment may seem, depression does not define a person's identity, and it does not have to determine their future. Modern society has transformed human life in remarkable ways. We have instant communication, advanced technology, unlimited access to information, and conveniences that previous generations could hardly imagine. With a smartphone, we can connect with people across the world, learn almost any skill, order food, work remotely, and entertain ourselves for hours. From the outside, it appears that modern life should make people happier than ever before. Yet despite all these advancements, millions of people report feeling lonely, emotionally exhausted, anxious, and depressed. This contradiction raises an important question. If life has become more comfortable, why do so many people feel emptier than ever? One of the biggest reasons is the culture of constant comparison. In previous generations, people compared themselves mainly with those in their local communities. Today, social media exposes us to thousands of carefully edited images and videos every day. We see successful entrepreneurs celebrating million-dollar businesses, fitness influencers showing perfect bodies, travelers exploring exotic destinations, and couples sharing seemingly flawless relationships. These images create the illusion that everyone else is living a happier, more successful, and more meaningful life. The reality, however, is very different. Most people share only their highlights while hiding their struggles, failures, insecurities, and painful moments. Social media often becomes a carefully designed performance rather than an honest reflection of reality. Yet the human brain naturally compares itself with what it sees. After scrolling through hundreds of perfect moments, people begin to question their own lives. They wonder why they are not as successful, attractive, wealthy, or happy as everyone else appears to be. Over time, this constant comparison damages self-esteem and creates feelings of inadequacy that can contribute to depression. Modern society also promotes the belief that success determines personal worth. From a young age, people are taught to achieve more, earn more, work harder, and constantly improve themselves. Ambition itself is not harmful. The problem begins when a person's value becomes completely tied to achievements. If someone loses a job, fails an exam, experiences financial difficulties, or falls behind others, they may begin to believe they are a failure as a person rather than simply facing a temporary challenge. This endless pursuit of success creates enormous psychological pressure. Instead of appreciating progress, people become trapped in an endless cycle of chasing the next goal. As soon as one milestone is achieved, another immediately takes its place. There is little time to celebrate accomplishments because society constantly encourages people to move faster and aim higher. Eventually, many individuals become emotionally exhausted. They may have successful careers, expensive possessions, and public recognition, yet still feel empty inside because external achievements cannot fully satisfy deeper emotional needs. Technology has also changed the way people connect with one another. While digital communication allows us to stay in touch with anyone around the world, it has not necessarily strengthened genuine human relationships. Many conversations now happen through text messages, comments, and emojis instead of face-to-face interaction. Although online communication has many benefits, it cannot fully replace the emotional connection created through real conversations, shared experiences, eye contact, and physical presence. Loneliness has become one of the hidden epidemics of modern society. A person can have thousands of followers online and still feel completely alone. They may receive hundreds of likes on a photo, yet have no one they truly trust when life becomes difficult. Human beings are naturally social creatures. We are designed to build meaningful relationships based on trust, empathy, and emotional support. When these deep connections are missing, feelings of isolation become stronger, increasing the risk of depression. Another major factor is the constant pace of modern life. People rarely allow themselves time to slow down. Many wake up early, rush through traffic, work long hours, answer emails late into the evening, and spend whatever free time remains staring at screens. Even moments of rest are often filled with endless notifications, news updates, and social media scrolling. The mind rarely experiences true silence. This constant stimulation prevents emotional recovery. The brain needs periods of rest to process experiences, regulate emotions, and restore mental energy. Without these moments, stress gradually accumulates. Over weeks, months, or years, chronic stress can contribute to anxiety, emotional exhaustion, burnout, and depression. Consumer culture also plays an important role. Modern advertising continuously sends the message that happiness can be purchased. New clothes, expensive cars, luxury homes, the latest smartphones, beauty products, and fashionable lifestyles are often presented as the keys to fulfillment. While material possessions can certainly improve comfort and convenience, they rarely provide lasting emotional satisfaction. People frequently experience what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. After purchasing something they deeply wanted, excitement lasts only a short time before they adapt to it. Soon another desire appears, and the cycle begins again. This endless pursuit of external rewards can leave people feeling permanently dissatisfied because lasting happiness depends far more on relationships, purpose, health, and personal growth than on possessions alone. Work culture has become another significant source of emotional pressure. Many employees face unrealistic expectations, demanding schedules, constant performance evaluations, and fear of losing their jobs. Remote work has blurred the boundaries between professional and personal life, making it difficult for many people to truly disconnect from work. Emails arrive at all hours, meetings fill calendars, and productivity becomes the primary measure of success. When people spend years under continuous pressure without adequate rest, emotional exhaustion becomes inevitable. Burnout and depression often develop gradually rather than suddenly. What begins as stress slowly evolves into chronic fatigue, loss of motivation, emotional numbness, and hopelessness. Modern society also encourages perfectionism. Everywhere people look, they encounter messages telling them they should be more productive, more attractive, more disciplined, more successful, and more accomplished. Mistakes are often viewed as personal failures rather than natural parts of learning. This perfectionist mindset creates constant fear of making errors, disappointing others, or falling behind. Living with unrealistic expectations becomes emotionally exhausting because perfection is impossible. Everyone experiences setbacks, failures, uncertainty, and difficult seasons. Yet when society celebrates only success while hiding struggle, individuals begin believing they are the only ones who are failing. Another important factor is the decline of meaningful community. In many traditional societies, families lived close together, neighbors knew one another, and communities provided emotional support during difficult times. Today, many people move frequently for education or work, leaving behind family and lifelong friendships. Urban life often brings physical closeness but emotional distance. People may live in crowded apartment buildings while barely knowing the names of those living next door. Without strong communities, individuals often face life's challenges alone. When depression develops, they may hesitate to ask for help because they fear judgment or rejection. This isolation allows depression to grow even stronger. Modern society also leaves little room for reflection. Every free moment is quickly filled with entertainment, notifications, videos, podcasts, or music. While these distractions provide temporary relief, they sometimes prevent people from understanding their own emotions. Instead of asking themselves why they feel unhappy or disconnected, they continue distracting themselves until emotional pain eventually becomes impossible to ignore. Many philosophers and psychologists have argued that modern life has created an existential crisis. People spend years pursuing careers, financial success, and social status without asking deeper questions about meaning, purpose, and personal fulfillment. When external achievements fail to provide lasting happiness, many begin experiencing feelings of emptiness. This emotional void can contribute to depression because human beings need more than comfort and success. They also need purpose, belonging, love, and authenticity. Despite these challenges, modern society is not entirely responsible for depression, nor is technology itself the enemy. Social media can connect families across continents. Technology can provide education, mental health resources, and communities of support. Careers can offer purpose and financial stability. The problem arises when these tools begin controlling our lives instead of serving them. Building healthier habits can reduce many of these pressures. Limiting unnecessary social media use, spending time outdoors, strengthening personal relationships, exercising regularly, practicing gratitude, setting realistic goals, and making time for genuine rest all help protect emotional well-being. Choosing meaningful conversations over endless scrolling, valuing progress instead of perfection, and focusing on personal growth rather than constant comparison can gradually create a healthier relationship with the modern world. Ultimately, modern society offers incredible opportunities, but it also presents psychological challenges that previous generations rarely faced. Constant comparison, endless pressure, emotional isolation, perfectionism, consumer culture, and the relentless pace of daily life can slowly wear down mental health. Understanding these influences helps us recognize that depression is not always caused by personal weakness. Sometimes it is also a reflection of the environment in which we live. By becoming aware of these pressures and intentionally creating a more balanced life, we can protect our mental well-being and rediscover the deeper human connections, purpose, and inner peace that modern life often encourages us to overlook. Depression is often viewed as something that should be eliminated as quickly as possible. Most people see it only as pain, suffering, or weakness. They believe its only purpose is to be cured and forgotten. While depression is a serious mental health condition that deserves proper treatment and support, Some psychologists and philosophers have suggested that it can also reveal important truths about a person's inner life. This does not mean depression is good or that people should suffer in silence. Instead, it means that alongside medical care and emotional support, depression may sometimes point toward deeper emotional conflicts, unmet needs, or life circumstances that require attention. Rather than seeing it only as an enemy, it can sometimes be understood as a signal that something within us needs to change. One of the psychologists most closely associated with this idea is Jung believed that many psychological struggles are not random accidents but messages from the unconscious mind. According to his perspective, the unconscious constantly communicates through emotions, dreams, symbols, and psychological distress. When people ignore their deepest needs, suppress their emotions, or live in ways that conflict with their authentic selves, the unconscious eventually demands attention. Sometimes that demand appears in the form of anxiety, emotional emptiness, or depression. Imagine driving a car while ignoring the warning lights on the dashboard. At first, everything may seem normal. The vehicle continues moving, and you believe nothing is wrong. But the warning lights are not trying to punish you. They are attempting to protect you by signaling that something inside the engine needs attention. Ignoring those signals does not solve the problem. Eventually, the damage becomes more serious. In a similar way, depression can sometimes act like an emotional warning light. It may be telling you that your mind, relationships, work, or lifestyle have become disconnected from what truly matters to you. Many people spend years living according to other people's expectations. From childhood, they are told what success should look like, what career they should pursue, how they should behave, and what kind of life they should build. They work hard to meet these expectations, believing that achieving them will finally bring happiness. They earn degrees, build careers, accumulate money, and gain social approval. Yet after reaching these goals, they often discover an unexpected emptiness. Despite having everything they thought they wanted, they still feel deeply unsatisfied. This emotional emptiness can become the beginning of depression for some individuals. It is not necessarily because they failed, but because they succeeded in pursuing goals that were never truly their own. Their external life may appear successful while their inner life feels abandoned. Depression can emerge as the mind's way of demanding a more authentic existence. Modern society often encourages people to ignore uncomfortable emotions. Sadness is viewed as weakness. Fear is hidden behind confidence. Loneliness is masked with entertainment. Instead of understanding emotional pain, people frequently distract themselves with endless work, social media, shopping, alcohol, or constant business. These distractions may provide temporary relief, but they rarely solve the deeper emotional issues beneath the surface. Emotions do not disappear simply because they are ignored. They remain within the unconscious mind, gradually accumulating over time. Unresolved grief, disappointment, childhood trauma, broken relationships, feelings of rejection, and unmet emotional needs can quietly influence thoughts and behaviors for many years. Eventually, the emotional burden becomes too heavy to carry unconsciously. Depression may then emerge as the mind's way of forcing a person to stop running and begin listening. Many people experience depression during major life transitions. The loss of a loved one, divorce, unemployment, retirement, serious illness, or the end of a long-held dream can shake a person's sense of identity. During these moments, old beliefs about life no longer seem to work. The future becomes uncertain, and familiar routines lose their meaning. Although these experiences are deeply painful, they also create opportunities to rebuild life on stronger and more authentic foundations. Depression often forces people to ask questions they may have avoided for years. Am I living the life I truly want? Am I surrounded by people who genuinely care about me? Have I sacrificed my own happiness trying to satisfy everyone else? What gives my life meaning beyond success, money, or recognition? These questions are uncomfortable because they challenge long-held assumptions, but they can also become the beginning of profound personal growth. This process is closely connected to the search for identity. Many individuals define themselves through external roles. They believe they are only their profession, achievements, relationships, or social status. When those external identities begin to collapse, they may feel as though they no longer know who they are. Depression can expose this fragile foundation, encouraging people to discover a deeper sense of self that is not entirely dependent on external success. Another important aspect of Jung's philosophy is the idea of the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we reject, hide, or deny. These may include painful memories, fears, anger, insecurity, vulnerability, or even talents and desires we have never allowed ourselves to express. Throughout life, many people try to present only the acceptable parts of their personality while hiding everything else. Maintaining this emotional mask requires enormous psychological energy. Over time, the distance between the public self and the authentic self grows larger. The more people suppress their genuine emotions, the more emotionally exhausted they become. Depression can sometimes signal that this hidden part of the personality can no longer remain ignored. Healing may require accepting these rejected aspects with honesty and compassion rather than shame. This does not mean every case of depression has a hidden philosophical message. Depression is a complex medical condition influenced by biological, psychological, social, and environmental factors. Brain chemistry, genetics, chronic stress, trauma, physical illness, and life circumstances all contribute to its development. Some individuals require medication, psychotherapy, or other professional treatments to recover. Recognizing possible emotional meaning should never replace proper medical care when it is needed. However, emotional reflection can complement treatment. Therapy often helps people identify patterns they were previously unaware of. They may discover unhealthy relationships that constantly undermine their confidence. They may recognize careers that leave them emotionally empty despite financial success. They may realize they have spent years ignoring their own needs while constantly trying to satisfy others. These insights do not erase depression overnight, but they can gradually guide healthier life choices. Depression also challenges common cultural assumptions about happiness. Society frequently suggests that happiness should be constant and uninterrupted. People feel pressure to remain positive, productive, motivated, and successful every day. When sadness appears, they often believe something is wrong with them. Yet emotional life naturally includes periods of joy, disappointment, uncertainty, grief, and reflection. Trying to eliminate every negative emotion may actually increase psychological suffering. Growth often requires discomfort. Just as muscles become stronger through resistance, emotional maturity frequently develops through life's challenges. Many individuals who recover from depression describe becoming more compassionate, self-aware, and emotionally resilient. They learn to appreciate meaningful relationships, establish healthier boundaries, and define success according to their own values rather than society's expectations. Meaning also plays an essential role in recovery. When people lose their sense of purpose, depression often becomes more powerful. Daily routines begin to feel empty, and motivation disappears. Rebuilding purpose does not necessarily require extraordinary achievements. Sometimes purpose begins with small acts of kindness, caring for loved ones, learning new skills, creating art, volunteering, or contributing positively to another person's life. These seemingly ordinary actions gradually reconnect individuals with a sense of meaning larger than themselves. Self-compassion becomes equally important during this journey. Depression often fills the mind with harsh self-criticism. People blame themselves for struggling, compare themselves to others, and feel ashamed of needing help. Genuine healing requires replacing this inner criticism with understanding. Just as we would show patience toward a close friend experiencing emotional pain, we must learn to offer that same kindness to ourselves. Recovery is rarely immediate. There will be setbacks, difficult days, and moments when progress seems invisible. This does not mean healing has stopped. Personal transformation usually occurs gradually through consistent effort, professional support, honest self-reflection, and small daily choices. Every conversation, every healthy habit, every therapy session, and every act of self-care contributes to rebuilding emotional strength. Ultimately, depression may sometimes become more than a condition to overcome. It can become an invitation to examine life more honestly, reconnect with forgotten values, heal emotional wounds, and build a future that reflects one's authentic self. While no one would choose to experience depression, some people eventually discover that their darkest season taught them lessons they might never have learned otherwise. The suffering itself is not the goal, but the wisdom gained through healing can transform the way a person understands themselves and the world. When approached with proper treatment, compassion, and courage, depression can become not only a challenge to survive but also the beginning of a deeper, more meaningful, and more authentic life. When people think about overcoming depression or making positive changes in life, they often imagine dramatic transformations. They believe they need to completely change their lifestyle overnight, develop perfect habits, wake up early every morning, exercise for an hour, eat perfectly, meditate daily, become highly productive, and instantly feel motivated. This expectation creates enormous pressure, especially for someone struggling with depression. When they fail to maintain these unrealistic standards, they often feel even more discouraged than before. The truth is that lasting change rarely begins with giant leaps. Instead, it almost always starts with small actions repeated consistently over time. Small actions may appear insignificant at first, but they possess remarkable power. Every major achievement in history, every successful business, every strong relationship, every masterpiece of art, and every personal transformation has been built one small step at a time. A tree does not become enormous overnight. It begins as a tiny seed that slowly grows through daily nourishment. In the same way, emotional healing begins with small choices that gradually reshape the mind, body, and daily life. One of the greatest challenges of depression is that it steals motivation. People often wait until they feel motivated before taking action. Unfortunately, depression makes motivation extremely difficult to find. This creates a painful cycle. A person waits to feel better before acting, but they do not feel better because they are unable to act. The cycle continues day after day, making recovery seem impossible. Psychologists have discovered that action often comes before motivation rather than after it. Instead of waiting for the desire to appear, taking even the smallest action can begin creating the motivation that was previously missing. The brain responds positively to progress, no matter how small that progress may seem. Completing a simple task provides a small sense of accomplishment, encouraging the person to take another step. This process gradually builds momentum. Imagine standing at the bottom of a tall mountain. Looking at the entire climb feels overwhelming. If you focus only on reaching the summit, you may never begin the journey because the distance seems impossible. However, if you focus only on taking the next step, the challenge becomes manageable. Every step brings you slightly closer to the top, even if the progress feels slow. Healing from depression works in much the same way. Focusing on today's small action is often far more effective than worrying about complete recovery. Consider something as simple as getting out of bed. For someone who is emotionally healthy, this task requires almost no effort. For someone experiencing depression, however, getting out of bed may feel like climbing a mountain. If they accomplish this one task, it should not be dismissed as insignificant. It represents a meaningful victory against the illness. Each small victory weakens depression's belief that nothing can change. The same principle applies to daily routines. Drinking a glass of water after waking up may seem ordinary, yet it establishes the first successful action of the day. Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, opening the curtains to let sunlight into the room, preparing breakfast, or putting on clean clothes may all appear simple, but together they begin restoring structure to daily life. Depression often creates chaos and disorder. Small routines gradually rebuild stability. Physical movement is another powerful example. Many people assume they must complete intense workouts to improve mental health. While regular exercise certainly provides significant psychological benefits, the first step does not need to involve running several miles or spending hours at the gym. A 5-minute walk around the neighborhood can be enough to begin changing the body's chemistry. Fresh air, natural light, and gentle movement help reduce stress while encouraging the brain to release chemicals associated with improved mood. After completing a short walk for several days, 5 minutes may naturally become 10 minutes. 10 minutes may eventually become 20. Progress develops gradually rather than through sudden transformation. This gradual approach feels less intimidating and is far more likely to become a lasting habit. Small actions also influence the brain through a process called habit formation. Every repeated behavior strengthens neural pathways that make future actions easier. At first, every healthy choice requires conscious effort. Over time, repeated behaviors become increasingly automatic. This is why consistency matters far more than intensity. Reading one page every day eventually leads to finishing entire books. Writing a few sentences each evening gradually develops into a journaling habit. Saving a small amount of money regularly eventually creates financial security. Tiny actions accumulate into extraordinary results. Another reason small actions matter is that they rebuild confidence. Depression frequently convinces people that they are incapable of accomplishing anything meaningful. Every completed task directly challenges this belief. Making the bed, washing dishes, responding to an important email, or organizing one small corner of a room sends a powerful message to the brain. It says, "I am still capable of making positive changes." These moments slowly restore self-belief. One helpful concept comes from the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, which emphasizes continuous improvement through small, consistent changes. Rather than seeking perfection, Kaizen encourages focusing on tiny improvements each day. A 1% improvement may seem insignificant, but over months and years, these improvements compound into remarkable transformation. This philosophy reminds us that success is not built through occasional extraordinary effort, but through ordinary actions performed consistently. Depression often narrows attention until people see only everything that remains undone. Their minds focus on unfinished responsibilities, missed opportunities, and future challenges. Small actions help shift attention toward what has already been accomplished. Instead of saying, "I failed to clean the entire house," a person can recognize, "I cleaned one room today." This change in perspective encourages continued progress instead of reinforcing hopelessness. Social connection can also begin with very small steps. Depression frequently causes isolation because conversations feel exhausting. Rebuilding relationships does not require attending large social events immediately. It might begin with sending one text message, making one short phone call, smiling at a neighbor, or spending a few minutes with a trusted friend. These simple interactions remind people that they remain connected to the world around them. Creative expression offers another example of meaningful small action. Someone who once loved painting does not need to complete an entire masterpiece. They can simply sketch for 5 minutes. A writer who has lost inspiration can write one paragraph. A musician can play one song. These brief moments reconnect individuals with parts of themselves that depression may have hidden. Mindfulness and gratitude can also begin on a very small scale. Instead of forcing yourself to feel overwhelmingly grateful, simply notice one positive experience each day. It may be the warmth of sunlight, the taste of morning coffee, the kindness of a stranger, or the sound of birds outside the window. Paying attention to these moments gradually trains the brain to recognize positive experiences alongside painful ones. Sleep habits provide another area where small changes create meaningful improvement. Rather than attempting a complete lifestyle overhaul, someone can begin by going to bed 15 minutes earlier, reducing screen time before sleep, or waking at the same time each morning. These modest adjustments gradually improve sleep quality, which plays an essential role in emotional well-being. Nutrition works similarly. Instead of adopting a perfect diet overnight, adding one healthy meal each day or drinking more water represents meaningful progress. Every healthy choice supports both physical and mental health without creating unnecessary pressure. One important lesson is that setbacks are completely normal. Progress is rarely a straight line. Some days motivation disappears, routines break down, and old habits return. This does not erase previous progress.
Imagine climbing hasta el case.
Missing one step does not return you to the bottom. Likewise, one difficult day does not cancel weeks of positive effort. The goal is not perfection but persistence. Celebrating small victories is equally important. Society often celebrates only major accomplishments such as promotions, awards, or financial success. However, during depression, ordinary achievements deserve recognition. Completing household chores, attending therapy, preparing a healthy meal, leaving the house, or asking for help all represent genuine courage. Acknowledging these victories strengthens confidence and encourages continued effort. Perhaps the greatest strength of small actions is that they restore a sense of control. Depression often makes people feel powerless, as though life is happening to them rather than through them. Every intentional action, no matter how small, reminds them that they still possess the ability to influence their future. They may not control everything, but they can control one decision, one habit, one conversation, or one healthy choice at a time. Over weeks and months, these individual choices begin connecting like links in a chain. One healthy habit supports another. Increased energy encourages greater activity. Improved confidence strengthens relationships. Better relationships provide emotional support. Emotional support creates hope. Hope encourages further action. Gradually, what once seemed impossible becomes part of daily life. Ultimately, meaningful change is not created through dramatic moments of inspiration but through quiet acts of consistency. The smallest action taken today is often more valuable than the biggest dream postponed until tomorrow. Every glass of water, every short walk, every honest conversation, every healthy meal, every page read, every journal entry, and every moment of self-care represents another step toward healing. These actions may seem tiny when viewed individually, but together they create a powerful chain reaction that transforms not only daily habits but also the mind itself. Recovery is rarely about making one extraordinary decision. It is about making hundreds of ordinary decisions that slowly, patiently, and consistently lead a person back toward hope, strength, and a meaningful life. One of the cruelest lies depression tells is that it is your identity. It slowly convinces you that you are not simply experiencing depression but that you are a depressed person who will never change. Over time, this belief becomes so deeply rooted that it begins to shape the way you see yourself, your relationships, your future, and your place in the world. The illness whispers that you have always been broken, that you will always feel this way, and that there is no version of yourself beyond the pain. But this is one of depression's greatest deceptions. Depression is a condition that affects your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. It is not the definition of who you are. Every human being has an identity that is much larger than any illness they may experience. A person with a broken arm is not defined by the injury. A person with diabetes is not defined only by the disease. In the same way, someone experiencing depression is not defined by their mental health condition. Depression may influence how they think and feel for a period of time, but it does not erase their personality, dreams, talents, values, or potential. Those qualities still exist, even if they are temporarily hidden beneath emotional pain. One reason depression feels like an identity is because it changes the way people think. Thoughts become overwhelmingly negative. The mind constantly searches for evidence that supports hopeless conclusions. Every mistake feels like proof of failure. Every rejection confirms feelings of worthlessness. Every difficult day becomes evidence that nothing will ever improve. These thoughts feel convincing because depression affects the brain's ability to process information objectively. Imagine wearing a pair of dark glasses every single day. Eventually, you might forget that the glasses are there and begin believing the entire world is naturally dark. In reality, the darkness is created by the lens, not by the world itself. Depression works in a similar way. It places a psychological filter over every experience, making life appear hopeless even when hope still exists. The emotions feel real, but they do not always represent reality accurately. Many people living with depression begin introducing themselves internally through the language of the illness. Instead of saying, "I am experiencing depression," they begin saying, "I am depressed," as though depression has become their entire identity. This subtle change in language has powerful psychological consequences. When people believe the illness is who they are, recovery begins to seem impossible because changing identity feels much harder than recovering from a condition. Identity is formed over many years through experiences, relationships, beliefs, and choices. Depression can influence these areas, but it cannot completely erase them. A compassionate friend remains compassionate during depression. A creative artist remains creative, even if they temporarily lose inspiration. A loving parent continues to love their children even while struggling emotionally. A determined student remains capable of learning despite periods of hopelessness. Depression may hide these qualities, but it does not destroy them. Think about the sky during a severe storm. Thick clouds may completely cover the sun for hours or even days. Looking upward, it appears as though the sunlight has disappeared forever. Yet we know the sun has not vanished. It remains exactly where it has always been, waiting behind the clouds. The storm changes what we can see, not what actually exists. Depression functions much like those clouds. It blocks hope, joy, confidence, and peace from view, making it seem as though they no longer exist. In reality, those parts of your identity remain present beneath the emotional storm. Many people who recover from depression later describe an important realization. During their illness, they truly believed they would never feel differently. They could not imagine happiness returning because depression had limited their ability to picture any future beyond suffering. Yet as recovery gradually occurred, they discovered emotions they thought were gone forever slowly returning. They laughed again, found purpose again, built relationships again, and experienced hope again. Their experience demonstrates an important truth. Depression can distort the future without accurately predicting it. Another reason depression becomes part of identity is prolonged suffering. If someone has struggled for months or years, they may barely remember life before the illness. Memories of confidence, excitement, curiosity, and joy become distant. Eventually, they begin believing they have always been this way. However, identity is not determined by the length of suffering. A difficult chapter, no matter how long, remains only one chapter within the larger story of a person's life. Children provide a powerful reminder of this idea. Young children naturally display curiosity, imagination, creativity, and emotional openness. As life unfolds, painful experiences, trauma, rejection, failure, or chronic stress may gradually cover these qualities. Depression often develops after years of carrying emotional burdens. Yet beneath those burdens, the person's authentic self continues to exist. Recovery frequently involves reconnecting with qualities that were never completely lost. Self-compassion plays a crucial role in separating identity from depression. Depression encourages harsh self-criticism. People call themselves weak, lazy, useless, or broken. They judge themselves for struggling and compare themselves unfairly with others. This inner criticism strengthens depression by reinforcing feelings of shame. Learning to speak to yourself with kindness begins weakening the illness's influence. Imagine how you would respond if someone you deeply loved developed depression. You would probably not call them a failure. You would not tell them they were worthless or beyond hope. Instead, you would encourage them, remind them of their strengths, and reassure them that recovery is possible. The challenge is learning to offer yourself the same compassion you naturally extend to others. Another important step involves separating thoughts from facts. Depression generates countless negative thoughts, but not every thought deserves to be believed. The mind may say, "I will never get better," yet countless people have recovered from depression. It may say, "Nobody cares about me," while family members and friends quietly worry every day. It may say, "I have accomplished nothing," despite years of genuine effort and meaningful contributions. Learning to question these automatic thoughts creates space for healthier perspectives. Professional therapy often helps people rebuild a healthier sense of identity. Rather than viewing themselves only through the lens of depression, they begin exploring their values, strengths, interests, relationships, and personal goals. Therapy encourages people to remember who they were before the illness and discover who they wish to become beyond it. This process restores hope because it reminds individuals that their future remains open rather than permanently determined by current suffering. Meaningful activities also help rebuild identity. Depression often causes people to stop doing the things that once brought purpose and satisfaction. They may stop creating art, exercising, volunteering, studying, writing, cooking, gardening, or spending time with loved ones. Reintroducing these activities gradually reconnects people with parts of themselves that depression had temporarily hidden. Every meaningful action becomes evidence that there is more to life than the illness. Relationships provide another powerful reminder that identity extends beyond depression. Trusted friends, supportive family members, mentors, and therapists often see strengths that individuals cannot recognize within themselves. They remember the person's kindness, intelligence, humor, determination, and compassion even when depression makes those qualities invisible. Accepting support from others helps challenge the false belief that the illness defines everything. Purpose is equally important. Depression frequently steals motivation because it convinces people that nothing matters. Rebuilding purpose does not require extraordinary achievements. It may begin with caring for a child, helping a neighbor, learning a new skill, volunteering, nurturing a pet, pursuing education, or simply improving one small part of daily life. Every meaningful action reminds the individual that they are capable of contributing to the world despite emotional pain. Recovery is rarely immediate. Some days will feel hopeful while others may feel discouraging. Progress often includes setbacks, moments of doubt, and temporary relapses. These experiences do not erase healing. They simply reflect the reality that emotional recovery is a gradual process rather than a perfect upward path. The important thing is continuing forward despite occasional difficulties. One of the most empowering realizations during recovery is understanding that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can gradually choose how you respond. Depression may influence your thoughts, but it does not completely control your decisions. Each small act of courage, getting out of bed, attending therapy, asking for help, taking a walk, writing in a journal, or speaking honestly about your feelings, becomes evidence that your authentic self is stronger than the illness wants you to believe. History offers countless examples of remarkable individuals who experienced depression yet continued making meaningful contributions to humanity. Their struggles did not erase their creativity, intelligence, compassion, or resilience. Likewise, your current emotional pain does not erase your potential. The qualities that make you uniquely you remain present, even if they feel distant today. Perhaps the most hopeful truth is that identity continues evolving throughout life. No one is permanently trapped by a single season of suffering. People grow, heal, learn, and change in ways they could never have imagined during their darkest moments. Depression may become one chapter of your story, but it does not have to become the title of your life. Ultimately, you are far more than your diagnosis, your emotions, or your most difficult days. You are the collection of your values, your relationships, your dreams, your kindness, your courage, your experiences, and your capacity to keep moving forward despite adversity. Depression may temporarily cloud your vision, but it cannot permanently erase who you are. Beneath the pain remains a person capable of healing, growth, love, purpose, and hope. Recovery is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about rediscovering the person who has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the weight of the illness. That person is still within you, and no matter how convincing depression's lies may seem, it can never take away your true identity.